Welcome everybody to Randomjeanc's Hotline Miami 2 Wrong Number Review. Damn, the sequel is finally here, and after all this time waiting, I'd say it was worth it. Many more songs, locations, characters, story cutscenes, and strangely enough, the narrative makes less sense this time around, but more on that later. In case you haven't seen my first Hotline Miami review, click here to check that out. If not, then ignore that stupid voice and listen to this stupid voice. In case you didn't know, Hotline Miami 2 is a top-down pixelated 2D arcade shooter, and just increases what the previous entry had, with much more content and ambition. Hotline Miami 2 Wrong Number was released March 10th and now retails for $14.99 on Steam. There is so much more in this entry this time around, given the fact that this is the final entry in the series completely. Does Hotline Miami 2 Wrong Number deliver its swan song? Let us find out. Hotline Miami 2 Wrong Number begins with a group of vigilantes who idolize Jacket, the protagonist in the original game, as they too decide they want to go kill some Russians. But unfortunately for them, there aren't many left. Jacket pretty much killed most of the Russian mafia, so they go ahead and decide to kill random thugs in hope for media attention. After the mission, you play as Detective Manny Pardo, who is investigating gruesome murders being committed in Miami. Once you beat his stage, guess what's going to happen next? That's right, you're going to play as somebody else. Here lies the problem with how the story is being presented in the game. You jump around randomly from characters so abruptly that you get confused as to who did what and when. Not to mention, you play as 9 different characters in a non-linear progression, jumping back before the events of the original game and most taking place afterwards. You don't play as one set of characters in succession. Rarely you do, because most of the time you're going to be playing as somebody else very quickly and it's completely out of your control. It's all for the narrative's sake. I'm not saying the narrative is bad, I'm just saying it's confusing the way it's set up. I'm not saying the first game had a very straightforward story neither, but it is certainly much easier to follow along. Still, though, you will need to take a moment and do some online research to understand the timeline properly, which is fine. As of writing this script, I figured out a few things more on the story that make much more sense now that I've pieced them together. I am not saying the story is badly written. In fact, it is amazing how all these various points of views mesh together. I'm just pointing out that the way it's told can be very overwhelming at first. But once you make sense of some pieces and piece together the bits, you will be in for a story with plenty of twists and a greatly written narrative. The fact that you're flipping between characters at random, as if you're flipping through TV channels trying to find something to watch, it makes it hard to connect to the character you're playing as, because as soon as you're trying to make sense of what's going on and attaching yourself to that character, you get ripped away from that and then you play as somebody else. Hotline 2 this time around has maximized their scheme and effects from the first game. It is so much more amazing how stylized the visuals appear. The background colors tinge more colors than before, and you get some scenes with flashing backgrounds and storms crackling as you barrel through and gruesomely murder some people, might I add. It is quite mesmerizing. The backgrounds, I mean, not murdering people part. Okay, that too. Damn you, game, you are twisting my innocence. Just kidding.
My soul has been corrupt since before this game.
Oh god, my throat. Anywho, I really do dig the variation of locations. Gone are the simple houses and office buildings from before. Now you have jungles, piers, mansions, more clubs, and so much more. The developers really went all out on the locations, and that is a great effort that definitely pays off. Pixel art displays so much more objects and destructible objects as well, and set pieces that really feel the visual appeal of the art style. The music variety in here just blows the first one out of the water with over 50 songs, and I would argue that it possesses some of the best tracks I have ever heard in this style. Damn it, it's so incredible. Just listen to that. Just everything is bigger and mostly better this time around. Just as before, your goal is to mostly clear out the area to advance to the next stage of the mission. You die in one hit, and most of your enemies die in one hit. And I have actually noticed, I think you die now from 1 to 2 hits, because I've been shot a few times and not died. You can survive maybe 1 or 2 bullets from weaker guns, but for the most part you die in one hit. Boss battles are far and few in between this time around, which is a shame considering that the first game had more boss battles despite being half as long as this game. But that is a minuscule nitpick. The overall fluidity of gameplay is phenomenal. More weapons, enemy variants, whether you want to be sneaky or going guns blazing. Although nowadays you kind of have to go guns blazing, at least in the later stages. I certainly did notice how much more difficult this game is compared to the original. Damn, this game's difficulty spikes from the very first level. Seriously, it took me like 15 minutes to beat the first stage because I kept getting killed so often, and there's so many more hidden enemies outside my view, even with the extended look in the later levels, that just screw you over to no end. During the heat of the moment, you forget who's still there, and then you get assassinated by some prick you forgot to kill a few minutes ago. If you thought the original was hard, psh, you ain't seen nothing yet. Not only that, there is a hard mode. That's right, after you beat the game, you can do all levels all over again, with more enemies, much more tougher enemy variants, different placements, and the guns your enemies carry have much less bullets. Instead of 6 for a shotgun, now they have 3, and so on. It is a welcome addition though. It is quite more challenging and really damn fun. There were, however, some downsides to the gameplay, such as some stage designs are designed to just trick you. What I mean is that there are windows placed in areas just to screw you over, and a massive oversaturation of enemies, which doesn't necessarily make the game more challenging, it just makes it more annoying to beat, especially if you get killed by some jackass hidden away, purposely just to make you redo the entire level. Despite that everything is much bigger, the masks that made the first game so unique and fun is mostly gone. What I mean is that since you play as so many different characters, you might unlock a new mask here, but the next guy you play doesn't use masks at all, so the masks you unlocked are only useful for that character's progression, but not the other one. Some characters use weapons, others can't kill with weapons. The ratings given at the end of the stage and unlocks for each specific character's progression are much less important because you switch involuntarily from each protagonist you play. It just makes masks and unlockables feel much less important. Sure, there were plenty of masks from the first game that were pretty useless, but it was nice to have such a huge selection. It made you really feel like you progressed to that point and that you really earned it. I just wasn't as motivated as before to get a really high score. I just wanted to beat the level and go on to the next stage. Guns in this game are just essential. I don't think it's even possible to beat the game without using a gun. You absolutely need guns. The reason is to bait your enemies to a chokehold so you can just kill them. Try to lure them as many as you can to your location and just kill them. That's the only way to beat most maps, at least later on. And it's a shame. It just forces you to be less strategic. Forcing all your enemies to come into one spot so you can just shoot them, it makes the game less fun. With all that being said, Hotline Miami 2 Wrong Number is a fantastic sequel and final game to an incredibly unique series. There's plenty to do during the campaign that may take you around 6 to 9 hours to beat the first time around, not including the really nice addition of the hard mode, secret levels and achievements to complete, not to mention decoding of the story that once you do understand and offers a gratifying end to the series. Hotline 2 does so much right with a few bumps on the road that thankfully do not spoil the intense fun to be experienced in this title. An unforgettable game with an addicting soundtrack, story, presentation, and personality for Hotline Miami 2. You will laugh, you will probably cry because you'll be rage quitting many times, but in the end, Hotline Miami 2 Wrong Number receives a insta-buy. Don't take my word for it. How about your fellow Steamers? Steam players? Yeah, that sounds better because steamer sounds like someone talking about hot steaming Gave it a 95%, which I can certainly approve of and agree with. Well, thanks again everyone for being patient for this review and for supporting me by watching this or any of my videos. Want to stay up to date? Follow me on Google+ and or Twitter to stay up to date on my announcements and progress. If you want to catch my other videos that are less psychedelic but just as awesome, click here. Not your thing? Well, maybe this playthrough of most of the nights of Five Nights at Freddy's 3 will be, because certainly that was very terrifying at first and then became rage inducing. Thank you again everyone for sticking with me. This is Randomjeanc signing off.